One of the coolest things that you will ever do is to set up a bank account in a distant country that is not your own and put real money into it. It's awesome. It's a great feeling. And there's a lot of advantages. And today I'm going to talk about how to do that and the advantages of doing that, banking abroad, at least setting up a checking account or even a little savings account abroad in a different country outside of your authoritarian, collapsing, high tax, bullshit, angry Western country. I am, of course, Caleb Jones. This is Sovereign CEO. I show people just like you how to make location-independent income, move to a better country, or at least set up an international plan B, and do all those things without spending a lot of money. So why should you bank abroad? Why should you even bother putting money outside of your current country? Well, let me count the ways. There are many advantages to this. Matter of fact, I'm going to list several in this video, but there are even more that get even more esoteric depending on whether or not you own companies and a bunch of other things. But I'm going to give you the basics in this video. Advantage number one is that your banks in your Western country are weak and over-leveraged. If you are dealing with a bank in the United States, if you are dealing with a bank in Europe, you would be shocked to find how much money that bank actually owes and what that bank is doing with your money, or at least shadows of multiples on your money. You would be horrified. I've published some of these things at my blogs over the years. The German banks, the UK banks, the American banks are absolutely terrible. These are not safe bets long term. I have had a personal rule for myself, I've talked about this before, where I don't have any long-term cash in any bank. None. I don't have any long-term savings or long-term cash. The only money I keep in banks are money that is active money that I'm using right then and there that I will use in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks at the most. Anything longer term than a few months, I keep elsewhere, either in financial houses or as other assets like cryptocurrency, precious metals, things like that. Banks are not safe right now. Now, if you live in Canada, your banks are a lot less bad, frankly, than the United States, Europe, and other places. But they're still not long-term safe. I wouldn't put long-term money in a Canadian bank. I might use a Canadian bank, but not long-term money. So that's reason number one. If you get your cash out of the Western world, in a non-Western country, the odds are pretty damn good. Your money is actually going to be safer in one of these smaller non-Western countries than they are in these big, giant, debt-ridden, over-leveraged, big government, quasi-authoritarian Western countries. Reason number two, in these collapsing Western countries, your money can be confiscated. It happened in Cyprus. It's happened in Poland. It's happened in Ireland, where the government just goes into your account and says, sorry, this is ours now. We'll pay you back later. We promise, wink, wink. Now, the Western world is rising or collapsing or doing okay. It's collapsing. So as time goes on, what will happen to the percentage odds that your government might actually do this, even if you think they're low right now? Are they going to go up, down, or stay the same? They're going to go up. So every year, the odds will go up that your collapsing, stupid government, your collapsing, stupid, mismanaged, warmongering Western government will dip into your bank account or your savings account or your retirement account or what have you and say, sorry, we need some of this. We'll give you an IOU. Now, you may say, well, that'll never happen. That's 2% rule. I don't think so. I don't think that's 2% rule over the course of your entire lifetime. I think it's in the 2% rule right now, yes. But over the course of your life, no. Long term, I don't think so. I don't know. It's hard to say. But again, I don't want any of my long-term money in Western banks. No, thank you. Number three, that money is very easily public knowledge to the government. That money can be taxed. The government knows exactly how much money you have in that bank. I told the story on my blogs many years ago when I was a young dumbass where I had some stuff stored in a safety deposit box and I owed a creditor some money and they basically went right to the government, submitted a form. This form went right to my bank where I had the safety deposit box. This company walked in with a form and said, we want Caleb's safety deposit box. We have a guy here with a drill. Give us a safety deposit box right now, bank. And the bank, instead of fighting for me, the customer said, yes, master, let me take you right to his safety deposit box. And they drilled that sucker and took everything out of that safety deposit box. Now, the good news is, way back when I didn't have much in there because I just taken it out, but that was just dumb luck. Whatever you've got in your Western bank, your Western government knows you have it there. Now, if that doesn't bother you, great. It would bother me at least a little bit. Number four advantage of banking abroad is that you can, if you want, more easily engage in currency diversification. It's much safer to have foreign currency in that foreign bank in that country than to do it via places like Forex. You'll have real currency that's outside of your collapsing Western currency if that's a goal you have, if you want to diversify into foreign currencies. Now, as I said, there are many other advantages besides those four, depending on how complicated your life is, your business life, your financial life, your international life. Mine's a little complicated, so I have other advantages on top of that, but those are the basic ones that anyone can take advantage of. So how do you set up a foreign bank account in a foreign country? Here are the steps. And these steps I'll use with letters since I just used numbers for those prior steps, for those prior advantages. So step A is to make sure that country will allow you to open a bank account without being a legal resident. There are some countries like Armenia, Georgia, Panama, where you don't have to be a resident, you don't have to be a citizen, you can just go there and set up a bank account and they don't care. They just use your passport and they're perfectly cool with it, very friendly, very nice. Matter of fact, Panama, I'm not quite sure. Panama may have changed last year because of Cerveza, but there are a lot of countries, not a lot of countries, there are several countries in the world that really don't give a shit if you're a resident or not. So you could go there as a complete foreigner, go there as a tourist, walk into a bank, and they will let you open up an account there as long as you have your passport. Perfectly fine. Now, in some cases, there might be some minimums. You might need to put at least $5,000 in there, or $1,000 or $500. In many cases, there are no minimums. You could put $1 in there and they don't care. I've been shocked, as a matter of fact. Well, some of the international banks I've worked with where there's literally no minimum. You put $1 in, they're like, cool, that's fine. Pretty awesome. Just be aware that some countries require you to be at least a legal resident, not a citizen, but a resident, before you set up a checking account there. For example, my two homes, Dubai and Paraguay, unfortunately, both those places require you, if you want to set up a bank account in those countries, to be a legal resident first. So they need to see those residency paperwork. You don't actually need the residency card, the final end of the process, but they need to see it's at least in process and way in process before they will consider opening a savings account or checking account for you. So just be aware of that. That brings us right to step B, and that is if you can't open a bank account there and you want a bank account there and you might want residency there, then go ahead and pursue residency in that country if that's something you want. You can either move there or pursue residency without moving there. I have a lot of resources on that. And so go ahead and do that. Get residency and then get a bank account. So I have residency in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, and I have bank accounts there because I wanted both. I wanted residency and I wanted bank accounts. Now, but Caleb, per Five Flags rules, you shouldn't have assets in the country in which you live, right? Right. So if you're following Five Flags, you don't want a lot of assets in a bank in the country where you live most of the time. That's true. You don't want a lot. I have Dubai bank accounts, but as of this time, I don't have lots of money in these accounts. I use these for just lifestyle ease of use while I'm in Dubai. Kind of what I said earlier about how I have money in banks, but I have just enough for operating cash and that's it. Any long-term money is not in any bank. Same rule applies for this. Only if you're doing Five Flags. If you're not doing Five Flags, you just want to live abroad or have an international plan B, you can do whatever you want. You can go ahead and get residency in that country, move to that country or not. Once you have residency, then as the next step, go ahead and get your bank accounts, which I think is a pretty good idea. Frankly, if you get residency in a country that you don't live in, I don't see why you wouldn't get a bank account there. I think you should have bank accounts all over the world, but you know, I'm a maniac. You don't have to be a maniac like me. As always, follow your own goals for this stuff. Matter of fact, if you have any interest in learning where you can move to, if you need help on where to determine a place to live, or if you don't know how to move out of your country, you can go to escapeplancourse.com. That's my course on literally how to determine the best country for you and the step-by-step instructions on how to move out of your collapsing Western country. It's awesome. Check it out. Step C. Third step in this process, step C, is to make sure that your bank has easy online banking options that are in English. Most banks today do, but some still don't. So when you're opening up that bank account or when you're talking to that bank, in addition to determining whether or not you need residency, you need to ask, do you have online banking? Yes, we do. Is it in English? Or is it at least an English button I can press? Yes, we do. Perfect. Because you're not going to want to constantly go back and forth that country every time you want to do something with that bank account, right? So you need online banking. It's a requirement. You got to get your password, get all that set up, and you have to make sure it's in English. Unless, of course, you speak that language, but I'm assuming for this video you don't speak that language. Be aware to ask that question. I have seen guys do this. I've seen guys set up bank accounts and they don't have any online banking. They put a hunk of money in there, and then they leave the country. They're like, oh shit, I need to make a withdrawal, or I need to transfer money, I need to do a wire transfer, and they're fucked. They don't live in that country, they're on the other side of the planet. Don't do that, don't be stupid, at least ask that question. And again, most modern banks these days do, but you would be surprised the number of foreign banks that don't have that option, or have that option but it's not in English. So if you want to do this where it's not in English, I hope you're dating a woman who speaks that language, because you'll be in trouble if you don't. Before I move on to the next step, you should do something. You should subscribe to this channel, click the notification bell if it's there, like this video, and leave a comment on this video. Doesn't matter what the comment is. The more interactivity I get with this content, the more of this content I will provide for you guys for free. So it only helps you. Step D is to actually go to the bank and open the bank account in person. Please do not open a foreign bank account remotely. There are a lot of shady, weird services on the internet where they will do this for you, or things where they say, hey, our bank, you could open up remotely. I don't recommend that at all. I strongly recommend you physically go to that country and do it in person. So bring checking account statements, or at least have the ability to print them. Bring your passport, obviously you need to. Bring as much ID as you can. Bring other Visa debit cards and information from your other accounts. In some cases, you might even want to bring tax returns, or at least have the ability to print or email your tax returns. Have all that information and physically go to the bank and do it in person. Don't even try to open a bank account online remotely. That is just a can of worms. You don't even want to go there. So what I would do and what I have done is I always open bank accounts when I'm already in that country for other reasons. I'm not saying you need to fly across the world to spend a week in a country just to open a bank account. That'd be a little dumb. Attach that task to another visit where you're doing other things in that country, or at least other things in adjacent countries so you have a reason for going. By the way, enrollment is still open for the 6-Figure Warrior mentorship, where you work with me one-on-one for an entire year on setting up your own location independent business. The deadline ends this December, this month, December 31st, New Year's Eve. Get on that now, alphafocusprogram.com. Few more days left. Step E, when opening a foreign bank account for the first time. Don't put a lot of money in there at first. Well, Caleb, what's a lot? Whatever you consider a lot. If you're a millionaire, $10,000 isn't a lot, so that's fine. If you make, $27,000 a year, don't put $5,000 in there, $1,000. That's a lot. So whatever a lot is to you, put a little bit in there, just enough to get comfortable to get the bank account going. You can always transfer more in there. I don't recommend you put a mountain of money in there all at once when it's brand new, it's a new country, it's a new bank. This is all foreign to you. Pun intended. I don't recommend putting a lot of money in there. I just don't, unless maybe you have a lot of international experience like I do. But even then, I wouldn't do it. I'd just be very careful. This is something new to you. I don't want you to risk this stuff. I don't want you to get nervous. Put in whatever the minimum is, or just put in a few $100. Put in $200, $300, $400. It's fine. You can always put more money in there later. It's perfectly fine. Don't go crazy with this stuff when you're new at it. And the last step, step F, is to make sure you get, when you go and set up this account, you have this in your hand, the Visa or MasterCard debit card. Make sure you don't leave without that damn thing. And if they say, well, it'll take 2 or 3 days, then make sure you plan your trip accordingly so you wait there 2 or 3 days so you get that card. Don't leave the country without that debit card, because that's the card you need to use to utilize the funds in that business. A bank account, in my opinion, especially a checking account, is kind of useless without a Visa or MasterCard debit card. I didn't say a Visa or MasterCard. I didn't say a credit card. I said a debit card. Well, Caleb, my bank offers both. Sometimes you'll have banks that offer either one. Go ahead and choose Visa. Generally speaking, I know this is a general statement, this is generally true. Visa is a little better for international stuff than MasterCard. MasterCard still works fine. I use both, and I go all over the world using Visa and MasterCard. I'm just saying, if you have the option, some banks will give you the option. Recently, I opened a foreign bank account, and they said, would you like a Visa or MasterCard? Visa. Choose Visa if you have a choice. If you don't have a choice, MasterCard is still okay. I'm just saying you want that damn card before you leave that country. Be aware of this. By the way, that also means that's one of the questions you should ask. How long will it take me for you to actually issue me the Visa debit? In many cases, they just hand it to you right there, literally as you're waiting. Some cases, you have to wait 2 or 3 days. That means you need to extend your trip and make sure you're still there in 2 or 3 days. And that's it. That's how to set up a foreign bank account. When you do this, it's a really good feeling. It feels really good to have money outside of your collapsing foreign country. I remember the first time I did this many years ago, and I still feel how good I felt. And I just did this again for the billionth time. I actually have an entire spreadsheet of bank accounts all over the world because I'm a maniac, and it feels really good. I strongly recommend you do this. If you want some more information that's kind of fun, you can click this video here. This is the last AMA video I did where I answer questions from all of you. I talked for almost 5 fucking hours answering all these questions. I think it's one of the best AMAs I've done. You can check that out. I'll see you in the next video. Have fun. Bye.